Let me show you how to install and set up the SINEMA RC server. So setting up the server is very easy. You get the DVD from Siemens. One thing to consider is if you have Windows or any other operating system on your computer, it will wipe it off. You just boot the DVD, hit next, next, next. It might take around few minutes to 30 minutes to get it all set up. And once the server is set up, your server is just like a black box, and it will ask you to set up an IP address. So make sure you know the IP address of your router, and I'll just show you through quick steps. So this is our typical setup for our routers and gateways. So this is the internet connection, and we get it through an ISP, which is Internet Service Provider. Make sure you need a static IP from your ISP. Typically, most of the connections have a static IP. If not, they might charge a little premium to pay for static IP. So let's say our static IP is 100.200.300.400. So this is the actual IP address when we go on the web. So the web, everyone has a unique address. Right after the ISP provided gateway or router, typically we have our Wi-Fi routers or just regular LAN routers. So let's say the router address is 192.168.0.1. So the thing to set up on your wireless router is port forwarding. We have to open up 4 different ports so that we can get to our server. TCP port 443, 5443, 6220, and UDP port 1194, because sometimes TCP traffic is being blocked by IT, and then in that case we can use the UDP ports and the UDP packets can go to our server. So because our router is at 192.168.0.1, I decided to just pick .123 as a server. You can pick whatever address you want. Just make sure it is unique and nothing else on your network has the same IP address as your server. So what I'm going to do is on my router, I will forward all these ports to 192.168.0.123 and the same port numbers that it comes from too. So here's the settings of the server. So when you log in as a server under network configuration, you would use this IP address to get to the server. So the IP address is the same that I showed before, same subnet mask, and the gateway, this is your Wi-Fi router. And then make sure you enable this so that you can tell the actual static IP of your ISP provider that SINEMA RC is behind the networking net device, and the WAN IP address, that is your static IP through your ISP, is this. So this is the only steps to configure your server, and once this is configured, you can simply go to this IP address using HTTPS, which is for secure, at port 443 through any internet devices. I typically use my phone, and then if I get to this, that means my server is up and running and live on the internet. The next step is to set up date and time. Make sure the server has a current time. You can simply use your computer time so that it takes the time for there. But when the server restarts, it will forget. So it's always recommended to put up an NTP time server. To set up the devices, everything is under remote connections. So let's go ahead and go under remote connections. Here are all our devices. We also have option to update firmware of all the devices and push it through the server. Here's the settings for all the address spaces. So what are all our IP addresses? This is pretty nice. So we can create our groups. So now I know I'm creating a new hardware and a new device. And let's say it's a new customer. So I can just say create a new location, which could be whatever the location is, and I can name it. So let's say I'll say location number 3. And then if I check this box, meaning there are multiple devices on this location, then each of the devices or the users can communicate with each other. So I'll say save. And then the other option what we have is communication relations. So as you can see, admin has access to location 1, 2. Location 1 can only talk to location 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3. So right here on admin, I'll go and make sure I give the admin the rights to location 3 also. So if you have your service people or your programmers, they have access to pretty much all the devices. So now let's go ahead and add the new device. So I'll go under devices and I'll go create a new device. So I'll give it a unique name. So I'll say it's an MH76. We have to have a password for the device. So I'll put in the password. And then here's different device types. I know the device is an MH76 We have skill on set 615, which is Ethernet version. M is for mobile, so it's a cellular 4G version. We have some LTE cards for 1200. We have some RTU. We have a switch with fiber connection. So I'm just going to select M876. Rest everything is not required. If you know the GSM number, we can provide it with the gateway, so the device is capable of sending some messages. And then what group is it in? So I'll say it is in location number 3. So I'll add location 3 here. Hit next. So here's my network settings. Now I know it's a new subnet, it's the third device, so I will say it is subnet number 3. What location? Again, subnet 3 is on location 3. Now I know I want all of my devices to have the same IP address. So I know all my hardware, which is M876 routers, are at 10.1, right? So I will create that IP address, and then what's nice is 1:1 net. So now I can create a 1:1 net. I know it's the third device, so the 3.0. So whenever I want to access this device, instead of going to this, I will use this subnet and I will forward it to machine number 3, location 3. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So here is all my 3 devices, right? As you can see, the remote subnet IP address is same. But because we created a 1:1 net, there is a virtual subnet. So this one is at .1, this one is at .2, this one is at .3. So whenever I go to .3.1, it will point to 192.168.10.1, so I'll get access to my physical hardware. And there's some information here. So when I click on information, this is what we need to copy paste to our server. Now let's go ahead and set up our actual physical M876 hardware. So what I like to do is just go inside TI portal, and everything is connected through my RJ45 Ethernet cable, so I can see how my PLC, my HMI, and here's my accessible device, which is the Scalance. So the default address is 192.168.1.1. So I'll go to my web browser, type in 192.168.1.1. It will take me to the page for my Scalance device. Default login is admin. First time it will say you need to change your password. So I will change my passwords and type in a new password and hit set values, hit OK. It's very easy to set up. They give you a basic wizard for all the settings. So now I know I want my device at .10.1. That's what all of my devices are. So I'll just change that location. So because we know we set it up to location number 3, I can say, system name is M876. Location is location number 3. Name is EandM. Hit next. Enable router, yes. Radio mode is auto, authentication is auto, allow data roaming. Next, so this is important, this is through the APN addresses. So like I mentioned before, Siemens does provide a cellular card, SIM card. So that's the biggest problem and challenge that most of the customers face, is going to AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. Just go to the store, and then when you talk up to them about this hardware and Siemens devices and Scalance devices, they have no idea what these devices are. So the APNs for this is right here. So for Verizon, because now I have a Verizon card, I'm going to select this and put in as APN. I will call it Verizon. There is no username, there is no password. I'll say enabled. Hit next, date and time. I'll say use PC time for now. Again, an NTP server is recommended. Hit next, then DDS. Now here is the SINEMA RC setting. So for all this, all you have to do is copy paste the settings from your server. So I'll go to my server. This is the device. I'll go to my information. So device ID is 9. Here is my server address. So I'll say device ID, which is right here, as number 9, and fingerprint. So I'll go here and just copy the fingerprint. I can copy this, or I can copy this one. So I'll copy the 256. I'll paste that fingerprint right here. Now I know what I set my password as, so I will type the password of that device that I set it up on the server. Auto LAN is fine, and then I'll select enable server settings. So now all this is set and is grayed out. I'll hit next. So now it is at 10.0, and all the settings I can double check. Let's go ahead and connect our router through our new IP address, which is at 10.1. Again, it will give us the same error. It's not secure. We'll say OK. Go ahead and log in. And now I can see here's my device. Everything is accepted. It's connected to my home network, LTE. I can go under information. There is a log table, so it will tell me everything, whatever I need to know if there's any errors. I can go to my mobile and it's connected on the network. It's got a static IP, signal recorder. I can look at all my signal levels right here. I can go to my SINEMA RC. It tells me it's established my connection. It's permanent. Here is IP address and everything is good. Here is all the tunnel interfaces. So if I go back to my server just to check, I can see my device is online. So it was quick and easy to configure the device on the server side, use the addresses and settings from this information, copy paste it on our actual hardware, and we got the hardware up and running very quickly. So we added a new device and we created a new location, location 3. So let's go ahead and create a new user. So I'm going to create a new user. I'm going to call it user 3. Login method is password. Next, what are the rights for user 3? I'll leave it blank. What group membership does user 3 have? I'll give it location number 3. VPN mode is open VPN, and password, I'll create a password for the user and click finish. So now I created user 3 who has access to location number 3, and I can now go to my TI portal. As you can see, everything is still connected at 10.12 and 10.13. Now I'm going to unplug my cable in the back. So now my cable is disconnected. If I go ahead and scan the network, there will be nothing there. And it will come back blank. If I go ahead and open up my command prompt and try to ping 192.168.10.12, that's my PLC. No ping, nothing is there. So let's go ahead and open up our SINEMA RC client. So this is the client software that Siemens gives you. It's already running. I'll go here. We created a user. The user was called user 3, and I'll put in the password for the user. I'll click login. So now it's giving me a security error. I'll say okay, certificate is good. Everything is fine. Now it shows me. So whatever devices are connected, user 3 has access to. Right now we only gave it location 3. So it's there. I'll say yes, allow communication, and click this little socket thing. So it will make the VPN tunnel and I can go to this device. Now to go to the actual PLC and my HMI devices, I need to go to the address .3. So remember that. So now if I go click this home, it will take me to my hardware, but see now it's using the bridge VPN address to go to my same M876 hardware. So what I can do now is the same thing. The PLC has the address on my PLC was 10.12. So if I go to 172.17.3.12, because 12.12 is what my PLC was, I should be able to get to my PLC. And before I do anything, I typically like to ping it. So 17.3.12. So I know I can talk to my PLC, and my HMI is at .13. So I can get a ping back from my HMI2, and here's my project .13 and .12. So here's my client. It's connected, it's online, allow communication, everything's good on the client side, everything is fine here. I can go to the web page of the PLC, get all that information. What's my PLC? It's running. I can look at my diagnostics buffer and see what it's there and troubleshoot. But what's really cool is I can go online with my PLC. So now I can just say if I want to make a program change or I want to do anything and just go online with my PLC. I'll say okay, it's this one because that's my Wi-Fi card. And remember, there's one more trick here. A lot of times customer ask me is, hey, I cannot go online. So you have to make sure you use this virtual LAN address 172.17.3.12 instead of the actual physical address of your PLC. Now, because I did netting and I wanted all my machines to be the same, I created this 1:1 net. You don't have to do that. If you create unique static IP addresses for your hardware and keep them all different subnets, then it is fine. You don't have to do this. But this is a nicer way, that way all the hardware and all the machines and all the programs are same. So now see, it made the connection. I can say go online. As you can see, we are online with our PLC using the SINEMA RC VPN address. And if I want to make any changes, I can just go to my program blocks, make any change, and then just hit download. And pretty much it's like I am in front of the machine. Not only that, for troubleshooting, I can use my HMI. So I can use my smart client, or sorry, smart server and smart client app. So I know my PLC, or sorry, the HMI is at .13. So I'll type in the address .13, hit connect. So it will try to connect to my actual HMI, which means I can VNC in and see the screens on the HMI. And now it will load all the screens and I can have full access, or I can just have read-only access to my screen. So here I can go to my home page, I can see all my screens, I can go to my settings, and again this is running on 4G and my net. You can see it's showing some animation of a filling line for a bottling plant. I can go look at the set points, and whatever I do here, it's as if I'm in front of the HMI. So we don't only get access to the complete system, but we can remote in, create a VPN tunnel, a secure tunnel, go online with the PLC using TI portal, and even look at my HMI as if I'm in front of the HMI. Now let me show you how I can load the certificates to my phone and use OpenVPN to connect to my SINEMA RC server. So I'll go back to my server, but this time instead of logging in as an admin, I'll log in as the actual user because I need the certificates for this user. So we'll log in as user 3. User 3, same MH76 device, it's still online, nothing happened to the device. So I'll go to my account, and under my account here is all my certificates. I'll go ahead and do export, and I'll download all my 3 certificate files. So now I have my files, so let me go ahead and go here. I will copy these 3 files and I'll paste it to my phone because my phone's already connected. So I'll paste it here. So let's go ahead and go to my phone and go to OpenVPN so I can browse the files, and it's under download. So I'll import a profile. So I'll say okay, import OpenVPN profile user 3, yes, add. So now it's connected. So I'll go ahead and do one more time, import profiles, because I actually need to import the certificate and install the certificate in my phone also. I'll say import the certificate. It requires the password, which is the same password I said before. I will say okay, install the software. It's installed. I'll go back to import profiles. Now I'll select this. It will say select the certificate. I will say user number 3, select. Now it made the connection.
So hello, everyone. What we're going to do here is just log into our little private network. I'm going to log in as Fred, and we're going to make our connection into our SINEMA Remote SINEMA RC server. So this is the client software, no different than probably many of you who are working at home right now use a VPN. So use a VPN to connect. That's all this is. So what you see here is kind of a simplified version of what Hardik was showing. You in the slide you saw node names and node addresses and all that. This is really the most simple type of solution, and the thing to focus on here is the remote subnet, because the kind of the thing we're showing is that in this case, let's say I make a machine, and the machine is always, my PLC for the machine is always 10.10.10.2, for instance. And whether it goes to, site 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's always the same IP. So that's why this remote subnet's always the same. I don't really care about virtual subnet and VPN. That's kind of automatically set, and I don't really worry about that so much. So all I know is that's the address I want. And then I use this one-to-one NAT or the natting feature. What this means is that I'll be able to connect to the 10.10.10.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Any of those sub addresses will all be able to be connected. So that's the mode I want to enable. So before I actually establish a tunnel, I want to show you here in my TIA portal project, I've got a PLC and its IP address is this 10.10.10.2. And just before I try to go online or make my VPN connection, I'll actually try to go online right now without any kind of tunnel or anything. So this shows that I'm connected to my regular Ethernet card of my PC, and I'm going to see if I can connect. So what you'll note is that it's going to try to establish a connection. It's going to search, and clearly, since I'm not connected because this thing is sitting somewhere else, not on my network, it's going to try to connect, and ultimately it will fail to connect. So it failed to establish this connection. But now if I just go back to here and I establish my VPN tunnel, I've set up, this is the place I want to connect to, establish my VPN tunnel, this will get connected. So now I've made my connection. I go back into where I just was in the portal, try this again. And notice I didn't change my Ethernet card. It still thinks I'm just trying to connect through my local wired network, right? So it automatically just kind of redirected everything through the VPN tunnel. It now made the connection. If I go online, I'm online with the PLC. And at this point, I could do configuration changes or just all the normal PLC things you do, whether it's editing, downloading, changing, modifying. That's all. It's as if I were sitting at the machine. So back to our Cinema RC client, Hardik kind of showed this where even from this interface, since everything that we're talking about is a web-based configuration, if I wanted to look at the configuration of the server, for instance, I can go there. I can open this up and log in. And this is the configuration of the server. This is the 615 device that we are connected to. I'm just doing this just to show you. And it's really no harder than saying, there is the address of my devices I want to connect to. And I want to use this one-to-one NAT. I didn't need to necessarily add all the nodes and all this other thing. I just made that connection. Let's back out. All right. So one of the other things that we showed, or that Hardik was mentioning, is this remote DCP. So what I have here is I've got a drive out there that I want to connect to. And the IP address and all that is this 10.10.10.8 address. But it's kind of a new device, or somebody just pulled this unit from somewhere else, or it didn't have an IP address. So how do I connect to something that doesn't have an IP address? Well, since it's a Profinet device, I can go to the unit itself, or to the 615, the remote device, the remote Siemens device, and log in. So there's the device I'm connected to. I have this feature of being able to do a DCP. And right now, by default, it only shows the PLC, but I try to do a discovery. And it sits there and says, oh, wait, I see a device out there. I do have a drive. It has no name, a Profinet name. It doesn't have any IP address or anything. So I don't even have to set the name for this particular example. But if I say, I know I need a device that is that address, that's the subnet mask, and here's my gateway. I just do that and hit the set value button. And now once I have that, I can come in here and go online with my drive. Connected. So now I can do whatever I was going to do, download configurations and whatnot. In this case, I could even come in here, activate the drive, and you can possibly you guys can hear it running just turned on behind me. Wouldn't say starting and stopping drives remotely is always the best thing to do in a real situation, but you can if you wanted to. Stop that, and it's basically as simple as that. We did this, we've set it up. Now we have a device that we can then go on and configure and download to and everything we need to do.